Hi, I'm Phillip from the University of Western Sydney, and I'm with my colleague Pauline McGuirk from the University of Newcastle. We have a paper in Antipode which is called Critical Geographies with the State. We think the paper is novel for a number of reasons. One is that we see the state and its apparatus as a site of contestation, and we see that this always opens up the possibility of effective action for progressive outcomes. Now, we're aware that the state is not always viewed by critical geographers as a potential force for good. Indeed, in a world where the state has become overwhelmed, or at least dominated by neoliberalism, we think there has been too little work done on the ways the state might be engaged in programs that yield desirable sustainability or social justice outcomes. So, Pauline, what was our project about?
Okay. Well, here in Newcastle and the surrounding Hunter region, there are many areas where employment, schooling and health outcomes are poorer than you might expect in a rich nation. Newcastle is about 160 kilometres north of Sydney. For much of the 20th century, it's been the home of steelmaking and coal mining. Steelmaking industry is largely closed. Coal mining is still very strong in the region. But the region is remarkably beautiful and productive in lots of other ways. It's famous for wine and food, for instance. But unlike many old industrial regions, this region has a high population growth. But there are pockets of extreme disadvantage in some of the old neighbourhoods, in some of the public housing estates, and in many of the surrounding rural townships.
So what happened was that government agencies in this region approached us to help them identify and better understand this new geography of vulnerability, but also to help them better allocate their scarce public sector resources. Australia's had a left-of-centre Labor government for some period of time, but we have lived in a nation where there are brakes on public sector spending and the desires for distributional justice mightn't be what they should be. So, Pauline, what did we do for the agencies?
Okay, we did a few things. First, we trained the agencies in effective access and use of basic census data, and training them about how the better spatial understandings that can come with critical GIS use. But then we led a substantial exercise in cross-agency data sharing. Now, this was a major innovation and it involved peak government bodies like the Privacy Commission, the Crown Solicitor of New South Wales, senior managers from major portfolios like health, schooling, policing, housing. We involved regional managers and also field practitioners. And the project was then able to assemble the legal documentation to allow data sharing to take place and to develop the technological processes to process the data. But importantly, we also created social and professional spaces where practitioner knowledges around these data could be mobilised and valued.
So we think there was good policy development, particularly around the pragmatics of data sharing and around the critical use of GIS. But Pauline, what did the paper say about this experience? What generalisations were made? What theorisations were enacted?
Well, I think the paper makes two important contributions, and one concerns our conceptions of the state. One of our concerns in writing the paper is that a view that the neoliberalism project in critical geography, that it doesn't allow sufficiently for a complex, unpredictable state, where the terrain's not only uncertain, but unpredictable, and where there are progressive forces and opportunities for justice and sustainability outcomes. In other words, we use the paper to encourage a conception of the state that allows for critical and progressive conversations within its domains, rather than the hegemonic view that dominates a lot of state thinking at present. And our second contribution, I think, is about knowledge and the useful way knowledge is created and used, or the ways that useful knowledge is created and used. Our contribution here is to the developing area around situated knowledges.
And what I think we like in the paper is the way that this idea of situated knowledges actually opens up our idea of the state as a contested but a potentially progressive space. Doesn't it, Pauline?
It does.
Okay, what else? Is there a way that people can find out about the project?
Yes, there is. Emailing either one of us is a good way, but there's also key documentation on the website of the Centre for Urban and Regional Studies at the University of Newcastle, so just look for the links.
So many thanks for listening in to our video, and we hope you enjoy reading the paper.